All right. I guess we'll get started. Good evening and welcome to the Candidate Forum for Cheyenne City Council, sponsored by the League of Women Voters and the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. Tonight's forum is going to feature 4 candidates for 3 wards for City Council. I'm Katie Cull. I'm the Wyoming Tribune Eagle's criminal justice reporter, and I'm going to be moderating this evening's forum. So here we have 2 incumbents, Scott Roybal and Mark Rennie. Scott Roybal is Ward 1, Mark Rennie is Ward 2. And then we have the 2 people contending to take the Ward 3 seat, Georgia Broyles and Ken Escabel. So welcome, everybody. We're going to start off by giving each candidate 2 minutes opening statement. While you're running, a little bit about yourself. You can look at our timer right here, and she'll stop you. And the timer's really loud, so once you hear that timer beeping, you will know when to stop. So I guess we'll get started with Mr. Roybal.
Thank you. And that's one of the first questions they ask you is, why are you running? Sometimes you don't have an answer. Sometimes it's just something that you feel like you need to do. I enjoy the job. I enjoy the challenges of the job. I enjoy showing up 50 hours a week at my second job, which is this. But most of all, I care about my community. I care about what's going on in the community. I care about what's going to happen in the community. And this job is not something that is basically a day-to-day. We don't look at today. We don't look at tomorrow. You look a couple weeks out, you look 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out to plan on what the community is going to become after we're done and gone. So the reason I'm running again is because I really enjoy what I do. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Rennie?
Thank you for having us tonight, and thank you for this forum. I have to echo what Mr. Roybal has said. I have served City Council for some time now, and I still enjoy doing it. I enjoy having input into what happens with the city. I enjoy having trying to help people when they have an issue wherever I can. And I think the reason I initially ran is that I believe that if Cheyenne is going to prosper and grow and create more jobs, we need to always try and improve and enhance our quality of life. And when I first ran, it was like, well, why don't they do more parks, and why don't they build greenways, and why don't they do some of these things, because other people in the country are doing them. And that was really what some of the things I ran on early on, and I still firmly believe that. I think that whether it be, I think leaving parks and greenways and recreation things behind are like a legacy we leave for the people and our children that come behind us. I think that improving and increasing the vitality of downtown is something that's very significant to overall health and future of Cheyenne, and I want to have a role in what happens in that. So I guess, when I first ran, it was like we need to improve our quality of life in Cheyenne, and even today I still think there's areas we can always continue to work at that and improve it, so that's why I'm running again.
Great. Ms. Broyles?
Thank you. My vision for the city of Cheyenne. The Southeast Community Park is an issue that is very important that needs to be completed. The voters have voted for that, and I would like to see that project completed. Fire Station number 5 and upgrades to Fire Station number 3, as well as others. Police Department funding is enhanced and fully staffed. 4 years from now, I definitely would like to see the Del Range and Highway 30 will be safer. Whitney Road will also be safer. The nonviolent offenders will have additional community resources, and incarceration and recidivism, are reduced. Enhanced community resources to treat people who have fallen into opioid addiction is one of the concerns that I have. While research indicates we're making progress, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. Increased public and private partnerships, increased new business startups and support for our millennial generation, better and quicker internet access, and downtown. Having Wi-Fi downtown, I think, is important and a good project to pursue. Recreational opportunities like the Big Hole on the Belvoir Ranch. Looking at zero suicides. We have a very high suicide rate here. Would like to see that reduced to 0. Transportation modalities and light rail. I'm a candidate who will listen. I'm a candidate who will problem solve with my constituents as well as with the community. Cheyenne is our future, and it's your choice. I have the experience to get there, and if chosen, would be more than happy to lead in that aspect. Thank you so much.
Mr. Escobar.
All right, thanks for having us. First off, I'd like to say I'm having a bit of laryngitis. Doctor told me not to talk. So I guess that's one way to shut up a politician, isn't it? So I'm born and raised here in Cheyenne, actually just a few blocks from here. Went to school, also just a few blocks from here, all the way through high school. Corlett Elementary, McCormick Junior High, and St. Mary's High School. And then hired on the railroad pretty much out of high school. I'm about ready to finish up a 40-year career, currently working as an engineer. It's been in the news lately that what a dangerous job that really is. You know, we put our lives on the line every day, and we just had 2 funerals, so I'd want to send my condolences out to those families of my fellow workers. But that is actually the lifeblood of our economy, is interstate commerce. After working 10 years in the legislature, 4 years on labor, health, and social services and revenue, I served on those committees simultaneously, and then I served 4 years on appropriations, and my last 2 years on judiciary and school facilities. Advocated real strongly for new developments to have elementary schools in the planning stages when they start to do those developments, and now I've seen a few of those projects come to fruition. One of the things I probably worked on the most while I was in the legislature was getting the new Cary Junior High School funded, and as I understand, the construction is going to start on that next month, and it's about high time. I think the biggest thing is, growing up here, I've seen some things that I've wanted to have happen since I was born, and it still hasn't happened. So I think it's time to get someone on the council that wants to take action.
Great. And I forgot to say, I think most of you in the audience are experienced League of Women Voters forum goers. However, if you do have any questions, please flag one of us down, and we will get you a sheet. And if we have time, we will ask audience questions at the end. Great. So let's move into our first question. It is, do you support a legislative effort to allow municipalities, including Cheyenne, to put optional sales taxes on the ballot without county permission? Why or why not? And we will rotate who goes first. So right now it is Mr. Rennie. You have 1.5 minutes.
I think that this stems from Senator Nethercott had a bill that would allow this in the legislature recently. And yes, I would support that. I think that if an area of Cheyenne wants to go ahead and charge themselves and pay for some neighborhood improvements by themselves, they should be allowed to do that. I think for the city, there are often times when I would get frustrated with past county commissioners, then I would wish the city had the ability to do that on our own. I do think we do need to be a little careful of that, because if we were to go on our own, the smaller towns, Burns, Albin, and Pine Bluffs, have no other way to do some essential infrastructure other than through the 6 penny. And that's a whole nother story as to why things are 6 penny ballots are developed the way they are. But I would like Cheyenne or neighborhoods or commercial districts in Cheyenne to have that ability. But if we were to do it on our own, I think we do need to always keep the fact, I don't necessarily want to leave the 3 small towns behind, because they have no other way to improve themselves.
Great. Ms. Broyles?
I agree with Dr. Rennie. In walking door to door recently, out in the Saddle Ridge neighborhood, for example, which is part of Ward 3, individuals were sharing with me that they would like to be able to add some park amenities to their neighborhood. And they were asking, isn't there a way that we could just, tax ourselves and be able to provide those amenities? And so I really do support that option, and I hope that eventually that will pass the state legislature, so we have that opportunity. I've never had really disagreements perhaps that a former colleague had shared with county officials in the past. We've always worked very well together on the six-penny ballot issue as well as many, many other issues. So I never experienced any of those difficulties or disagreements in the committees that I served on with county officials. But I also agree that we need to take care of the smaller towns as well and make sure that they're not left out in the process. Thank you.
Mr. Escobar?
Well, I agree that any time that a municipality has the ability to add more tools in their toolbox, especially when it's for a taxation purpose and a specific purpose, and it drills down and focuses in the neighborhoods about those specific needs that are wanted by those people that live in those neighborhoods. So it would be a valuable asset for the council to be able to use that.
And Mr. Roybal?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure. Do you support a legislative effort to allow municipalities, including Cheyenne, to put optional sales taxes on the ballot without county permission? Why or why not?
Well, limited. And let me say this, we're not reinventing the wheel here because we have something right now like the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, that they're doing a neighborhood improvement district themselves. They have a set borders, and they hi, better? They have set borders, and so that they tax themselves on or property tax a little bit more, so they can work in there. You know, the argument you hear is, and we hear, is that small towns also pay a percentage of the sales tax in the city of Cheyenne. City of Cheyenne. So why would they, if we did a special tax in just the city, they'd be paying their portion, or our portion and their portion. So I think that's the thinking behind keeping the optional six-penny with everyone on it. And it's the same as we've heard already, is that if we don't keep them on the six-penny, they're not going to get the sewer, the water, or any improvements. They can't. The towns are too small to do it themselves. So, like I said, there's a limited amount of money out there for them to do it. So, I think that we can do the neighborhood improvement districts here and still keep them on the six-penny. Thank you.
And all of you have 30 seconds to respond or add something. Do any of you want to take that time? No? Okay. Recently, there's been a lot of controversy about the Cheyenne Animal Shelter. Do you agree with how the City Council has handled recent issues at the Cheyenne Animal Shelter? And as a more broad question, do you think the city should have more oversight or control over the shelter and other similar contractors moving forward? Ms. Broyles, it is your turn to start.
You know, it's easy to think about the should-have, could-haves, and would-haves. It was psychologically or not always the best way to go. But hindsight is also 20/20. We know that as well. And not having been involved specifically in that issue, as some of the members here have been, my viewpoint may be different than that. The city has several different agencies that we support. And I think maybe it's time to look at all of the other agencies as well and say, should we have voting members on those agencies as well? Like our CDBG committee, we have many committees that people serve on. So I think it brought about some really good questions for other agencies as well. I think that it's okay to have more accountability and the system set up for more training. That's always good in any agency under any circumstances. So I think I'm okay with what the council has provided as opportunities to make that happen in order to receive those funds. I'm really disappointed in some of the way that things came down publicly in that particular situation. It's a sad day for the city of Cheyenne that some individuals have become, judge and jury before the process was even allowed to play out, and the accused was unable to give a viewpoint till the whole thing was over with, and then finally able to share that. So I hope that that's not an example of where we're going in the future. I think Cheyenne's better than that, and I think problems can be solved without a mob mentality. but I'm not disappointed in the outcome of the particular accountability issues and the training and things that will be required of the shelter. And I also believe we need to look at that for several other agencies that the city supports. Thank you.
Mr. Escobar.
Probably the only thing I would add would be that as long as the council has a liaison to that board, that liaison should be allowed to attend all board meetings. So that's the one way that we get feedback here on the council about any of those types of issues that are going on out there in our community. In that particular case, no pun intended, but it was Councilman Case that was left out of that meeting, so he would have been able to at least report back to the council, and maybe some of those problems could have been headed off at the pass.
Right. And just a follow-up question, do you support having like a voting member on that board, or do you think that a liaison is a sufficient solution?
Well, probably a liaison at this point, because of following up on what Ms. Broyle said, that if we had a voting member on all those boards, it'd be probably about a 60-hour-a-week job, I think. And most of us have other jobs that we are doing on the side, so I think it'd probably be impossible for us to be able to do all, to be able to attend all those meetings if you took all those other agencies into account. Because if you have a voting member on that board, you'd probably want other voting members on other boards as well.
Mr. Roybal.
Having sat through that whole thing, I like to say my phone weighs a pound more with all the emails on it. But we did get a lot of feedback. We did talk to the parties involved, and quite honestly, I was surprised that they had no board training. They had a little board indoctrination. They said, you know, you're now a board member, wear your patch on this side. But as far as things, you know, no Robert's Rules of Order, no emergency, and so that's why we made that part of the contract. And I could see us doing that with other agencies that we support, is making sure they have the right training, you know, have somebody go in and do the actual physical training, certify them, and go on with life. As far as being a voting board or member on boards, I think I'm ex officio on 5 boards and a voting member on another 3 or 4. So the time would not permit it. You know, we'd have to make the money the county commissioners do to do that. So, but I would say yes. I would support putting on any contract with anything we support that they do have board training.
Great. Mr. Rennie.
I think that we handled it about right. I think one thing that people didn't necessarily realize during all those discussions, we have several boards that we've either created or created jointly with the county. Some examples are like the airport board. I know we give money, we fund some money to Leeds, or it's part of our Leeds membership. You know, we do community block grants, as Mrs. Broyles referred to. We have city county health. But all those boards are, as I said, we've either created or a part of, and as a result, we have council representatives to all of them. The one difference with the animal shelter is it's a private entity. I mean, and our monies, our $500,000, is not really a donation to them. It's a contract, and it's a contract for services. So, and there's nobody else that can provide that service. Some people talked about, well, you know, quit sending your money there. That punishes the animals that are there. So that's not right. Other people said, well, just, you know, let's not support anymore, and the city can take their animals to Laramie or Fort Collins. Well, the animal control officers are employed by Cheyenne Animal Shelter, not by the city. So that means we either have to hire more people, or we send our police officers to ship animals to Laramie or Fort Collins. So there is not a practical alternative for us using the Cheyenne Animal Shelter. As far as having a voting member on that, the second part of your question, as I said, we have several boards that the city has either voting or ex officio